you now have the extraordinary situation where, as I understand it, the three or four wealthiest states in America are massively pro-Democrat, and the poorest states in America are, in fact, Republican. So going forward, it's a segue into just considering for a moment, if you could, the realities of the enormous challenges that now confront the Democrats. But then you come to the Republicans. The wealth, the media, much of the academy, and big tech form a very, very wealthy and a very influential bloc in America. And they are of, there's no other way to put it, it's certainly true in my case, they are so often essentially not interested in democracy because they know better. And they think it's all right to censor views they don't like. They think it's all right to manipulate the process if they get an opportunity. And ordinary people deeply resent that. And you get this exacerbation of the polarization. So there's two issues in there. I just appreciate your views on as we come to time out, recognizing that you have a great deal to do. One is this question of the power and the wealth now that stands behind an illiberal, anti-democratic view, extraordinary as it is. The very people who benefited most from what we have are the ones who are now launching the biggest attack on it. And the second issue is, how do the Republicans ensure that they can go forward, and what role might Donald Trump himself play in that? He is now free to, if it's not beyond, I would have thought, comprehension, that he'd say, well, I'll continue to disrupt going forward. I could have another go now. There's no two-term limit on me. I could have another go in 2024.
Well, remember, whatever he is, he's always going to be 4 years younger than Joe Biden.
Yeah. He may be quite older than the president by the time of the next election, though.
But if Joe Biden wants to run at 82, he'll be 4 years younger. He'll be younger than Joe Biden is right now in 4 years. So who knows about him? I think what you're saying is very evident here in America. It used to be that the Democrats were very strong on First Amendment, and they had the American Civil Liberties Union. And now the American Civil Liberties Union is devoted to suppressing free speech on campus or changing the vocabulary. And the reason they are is that if you look at the United States by county and income or zip code or income or congressional district, it's quite amazing that blue, if that represents left wing, all the money is in the blue states or the blue counties or the blue zip codes. So the Democratic Party is a party of very, very well-heeled professionals and billionaires. And all of our, we said earlier, big tech, media, investment, insurance, law are all Democratic controlled, and they have global markets now. They adapted best and could adapt best to globalization. And they don't feel anymore that democracy gives them the desired result. They feel that, well, we have an equality result, quality of opportunity society, and that's what we fought for. Our parents did. We have the 8-hour workday, the 40-hour work week, disability, equality of opportunity insured, civil rights, but we didn't get what we wanted. What we wanted was a quality of result, mandated, and that's by nature anti-democratic. Because if somebody opposes you on the road to utopia, you get rid of them. So now what Michael Bloomberg says, I don't want to cooperate with the Democrats. I want to spend $50 million in Ohio to show everybody that I flipped Ohio, wasted. I want to spend $100 million in Florida to warp that election and show my power. I'm Mark Zuckerberg. I want to tell everybody that I deplatform the president. I'm the head of Twitter. And so they don't believe in democracy because they feel that now the businesses and that they operate in are so influential in opinion making or in providing informational services, and their fortunes are not. When I was growing up, to be on the Fortune 400, you had to be worth about 100 million in today's dollars, and now it's 6 or 7 billion probably. They have so much money that they feel that they're sort of like platonic guardians, and they can tell everybody the way the world is going to work at Davos, and this is the way it's going to work, and it's not going to apply to us because we have to be healthy and have jets and estates and compounds and multiple, but it's going to be, we know best for you. And they have nothing but disdain and hatred for the middle class. As one of them once told me when I was arguing with him, you are the guys that have snowmobiles and jet skis, and tell me why you need a snowmobile or a jet ski. That's what he said. They have nothing. They think that the middle class lacks the culture and the sophistication and the taste of the wealthy, but it also lacks the romance of the distant poor. So they hate it. They just hate the middle class. And they're very dangerous people because they're also not nationalists. So if I meet somebody of this class who's Australian or American or British, they don't believe they're British or Australian or American. They believe that they belong to an international elite, that if somebody I meet from Australia is in this group in Sydney, then he feels that he knows New York better than he does a rural town in Australia. If I meet one at Palo Alto, he's never been to Fresno, but he can tell me every street in Shanghai. And that's how their mind works. They're international globalists, which is fine, but they have no empathy for their own countrymen. They have no empathy for their own national traditions. They have no empathy for their middle classes. And there are people like them in history, and they're usually in the post-industrial revolution Marxists that believe that their affinities transcend national borders. So they hate nationalism with a passion. They hate patriotism with a passion. And I find them not just off-putting, but especially after this election, very dangerous people, because it's very easy to see a right-wing greedy guy who says, you know what, survival of the fittest, Darwinism, I won the lottery, I've got more brains, and I'm going to get all the money and keep it. Okay, I don't think that's a caricature, but you know where they're coming from. But when you see somebody who has the same mindset, a Zuckerberg or Mike Bloomberg, but I'm doing all of this for you. I'm using all my money. I have to get more money. I have to have more privilege. I have to more control, but I'm doing it for you as I define you. That's very dangerous. That's sort of Orwell's Animal Farm or 1984 all over again.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your insights. They've been invaluable. Can I ask you one last question? Do you feel more or less positive about America's future, and frankly, therefore, you know, some sort of restoration of the global liberal order as a result of what I would call the capacity of the American people to see through the bulldust in this election? All right, you know, they did flip presidents, but only just. One has the impression it was almost reluctant on the part of a lot of people, but they've made certain he can't implement the things that are really dangerous.
I feel that they weighed in, and on elections in which the media didn't have the resources, and those were the Senate and House and state legislatures, they showed overwhelmingly their common sense and practicality. And I truly believe, had there been a fair vote count, and I don't want to say this as a partisan, but a fair vote count, according to the rules established by the state legislature, Donald Trump won that election. I don't think he's going to be president because I think the forces arrayed right now are against him. But I'm in a much better mood than I was prior to 2016 about the fate of America. And more importantly, involves Australia as well, because prior to the Obama years, there was a sense in America that there were certain countries in the world that were at the forefront of the Western experiment, that they had courageous people, they were daring people, they were devoted to constitutional government and free markets and private property, but they had traditions, religion, the Judeo-Christian traditions of humanity. They had great literature. They understood their flaws, but they were self-correcting, they were self-critical, they were self-analytical, and they had enriched the planet as no other culture had. And I thought that there were people throughout the Western world who understood that. The last 10 years, the self-critical went into the self-hatred. We had something I guess we call oikophobia, hating your own country. But I think we're coming out of that. I think we've seen the alternative as something like Seattle and Portland, and we don't want to go there. And there's enough people that'll stand up and say, you know, just like 1940, there were people in Britain that said, we are not going to roll over like the French did. We're just not going to do it. You can bomb us, you can try to invade us, but we're not going to be the French army that crumbled in 6 weeks. So I think it's something to look forward. And I think there's a lot of people throughout the world that share that confidence.